Smashing Machine came out a few weeks ago. For the most part, people really seem to be enjoying it, but the box office performance has just not been good. Like, it's been really bad. Last I checked, worldwide, like globally, I think it was at $16 million. But if you're not going to get a good box office performance, I guess the second best thing that can happen is to get high praise from Sir Christopher Nolan, which is what just happened here in the last few days. So let me share my screen and we'll share the article. So this comes to us from Deadline. It says Christopher Nolan lavishes praise on Dwayne Johnson and the Smashing Machine. I don't think you'll see a better performance this year. Dave, also, let's just take a second. I mean, look at this guy. How old is he? He's just ripped. Like, he's just jacked, dude. Smashing Machine may not have been a box office knockout, but Dwayne Johnson's turn as UFC fighter Mark Kerr has a big admirer in Christopher Nolan. The Oppenheimer director lavished praise on Johnson during an interview with Smashing Machine Helmer director Benny Safdie on the Director's Cut, the Directors Guild of America's podcast. Nolan said the performance was heartbreaking, added, I think it's an incredible performance, and I don't think you'll see a better performance this year or most other years. That's pretty high praise. Nolan and Johnson have not worked together, but they have spoken with admiration about each other's work in the past. Nolan is a big fan of the Fast and Furious franchise, while Johnson has talked about the amazing experience of watching Oppenheimer and IMAX. This is actually true. This is funny because I remember reading an interview or hearing an interview where Nolan talked about the fact that Fast and Furious franchise is amazing and he thinks it's underappreciated and it's one of his favorite movies / franchises, which I think is hilarious because with all the memes and just kind of, I don't know what people typically say about Fast and Furious. It's funny that somebody that is so rigorous in their craft like Christopher Nolan and somebody that just makes so many hits, that Fast and Furious is one of his favorite movies. But I love Fast and Furious too, so not going to knock on it. During Nolan's discussion with Safdie, the Smashing Machine director revealed that he was developing the project while he was starring in Oppenheimer. Safdie met Emily Blunt. Love Emily Blunt. I think she's one of the greatest working actresses. He met her on the Oppenheimer shoot. Christopher Nolan said, I heard a rumor that when you were supposed to be learning your lines on my set, he's talking to Benny Safdie because Benny Safdie starred in Oppenheimer as, who was it, Teller? He said, you were actually canvassing people to be in your movie. I wasn't aware of that at the time, but it seems to have worked out great for you. Nolan joked. Safdie laughed and said he tapped Blunt up during an Oppenheimer Q&A. During the podcast, Nolan added, congratulations on the movie. It's a really remarkable and radical piece of work that will be understood more and more over time. I'm very proud to know you. So that's pretty impressive. Again, the best thing that can happen is that you get amazing results in the box office and that it makes a lot of money. But if you don't get that high praise from Sir Christopher Nolan, that's a really good number two option to happen to you. So I think that this is interesting because you just find that there's many movies that age really well with time. So, for instance, Fight Club, when it came out, I don't know if critics liked it, I can't remember, but it didn't really do good at the box office. Blade Runner, again, didn't do great. Critics didn't love it off the get-go. Big Lebowski, It's a Wonderful Life. I mean, all of these movies, which are classics now, when they came out, they weren't that popular and they didn't really do that good amongst critics and box office success. But when given time, whether that's a couple years down the line or even like 20 years down the line, it starts to become like a cult classic and it gets a cult following behind it. So what Nolan is saying is that it can be better understood in time. I think he's saying that people will come to appreciate it more and it'll resonate more with people and it can still find success, but it might not be, for a few years. Now, all of these movies that I mentioned, Blade Runner, Fight Club, Big Lebowski, Wonderful Life, well, not necessarily Wonderful Life, but those movies were very unique and took big swings. And they were different from a lot of other movies in the marketplace at that time. I don't think The Smashing Machine, again, I haven't been able to see it yet. I've been sick, but I don't think that it's going to have a cult following. I do think that people will grow to appreciate it more, would be my guess, but I don't think it's going to be the likes of, some of these other really these movies that aged really well. I don't think it's going to be up there with that. Now, another thing with Christopher Nolan is he had recently been, not nominated. He became the head of the DGA, the Directors. What was that stand for? Directors Guild of America, I think it stands for, or something like that. And Christopher Nolan just a couple years ago won best director. I think they got best picture too with Oppenheimer when it kind of swept it. I guess it didn't sweep it. Barbie won a lot too. But what Nolan says in this industry carries a lot of weight. I mean, as you saw with Oppenheimer, Nolan he's a brand in and of himself. He's IP now. Like, whenever you say, I'm going to the movies, you're not really, maybe you'll say, I'm going to watch. I'm curious if whenever Odyssey comes out, if people are going to say more, I'm going to go see Odyssey or I'm going to go see the new Nolan movie. There's very few directors where that will even be a question. I mean, most people, you're just going to say what you're going to see, but Nolan can carry that weight to where people, it's an event and people refer to the event as, like a Nolan movie. So I think that this is interesting because he has such high respect. So going into award season, which a lot of people are talking about, that the Smashing Machine could make a lot more money on the back end once it gets into award season. And I think they're going to be pushing, it was A24. I think they're going to be doing a big campaign for Smashing Machine, probably for The Rock for Best Actor, probably for Benny Safdie as Best Director. They might go for Best Picture. Usually when a film like flops at box office, they don't go for Best Picture, but they might. We'll see how that works. But Nolan's comments here, I think, could really help light a fire amongst the voters and like the fellow peers and start voting for it, because they're like, there's really no one else in Hollywood, I think, that carries more weight. Like, their opinions carry more weight than Christopher Nolan. So I think this is actually really good news for Smashing Machine. I'm glad that he came out and said it. And it also makes sense because Nolan and Benny Safdie are just like good friends. They're bros. So anyway, that is my thoughts. Let's, as always, go to Twitter and see what the people got to say. Oh, I'm already on the screen share. Perfect. All right. Suarez says, The Rock realizing he finally achieved, here, let's do it. Finally realized he achieved true cinema. That's funny. Like I said, if you're not going to get good box office results, a good second place scenario to happen is that Christopher Nolan praises you. It's pretty dope. Don't really get that one. Before everyone trashes this film, box office doesn't take away from a film being good. Moonlight, another A24 film, opened with 402,000. It won 3 Oscars. 402,000, that is very low. That must have been a limited release. It's his best performance from The Rock. The film looked great. Yeah, I've been hearing that from a lot of people, that The Rock was unrecognizable in this movie. Yes, because he had prosthetics, but also he just kind of took up the characterization of Mark Kerr and became a different person. So, really fascinating. Mogu Magu. I don't know if I said that right. Nolan basically knighting Dwayne Johnson for the Oscar. Dude, I'm telling you, he basically did knight him. I think that minimum he's going to get a nomination now. But I do think that Nolan saying this is going to carry a lot of weight and really help Dwayne out in his Oscar campaign. Nolan out here saying it's best performance of the year. Meanwhile, the box office said we respectfully disagree. Yeah. Box office more so said we don't like the movie, if anything. But it got what was the cinema score? I think it got a B, maybe just a B cinema score, which isn't, it's not terrible. There's some sort of end game for Nolan here, but I can't prove it. I want that guy on the meme earlier. Wouldst thou like to live deliciously? Dude, these names. AIM says Christopher Nolan's cosign is bigger than box office ratings. I will stick with Chris Nolan. Amen. A freaking men. Amen. That's funny. I said amen and this guy's name's Amen. Didn't even mean to. It's dope. This is like how James Gunn praised The Flash. It has to be fake. We'll get to that a little bit later, but that's funny you bring that up. I don't think that Chris Nolan is just glazing it, though, for no reason. Momoras, a guy who spent his life pretending to be a fighter, plays a fighter in a movie, and we're supposed to be in awe of that performance. Go play something that has no muscles, and then let's talk about your acting. LOL. Well, you might get what you're asking for, because The Rock has lost a lot of weight recently. So yeah, he might be doing a role just like what you're talking about. But also, from what I've heard, he seemed like a different guy. It wasn't like the typical Rock. I think he really took up the characterization of Mark Kerr. Well, at least from what I saw in the trailers and interviews. MTS says it's not hyperbolic to say this. I rarely go to the movies anymore, and I am not familiar with M&A, but I was in awe of Dwayne Johnson throughout the film. Phenomenal performance. Yep. All right. Well, I got the sentiment of what people are saying, at least from this thread. Yeah, it seems like, people like The Rock, and kind of in agreement with what I was saying, which this could be really good for The Rock and Benny Safdie, Christopher Nolan praising it. So anyway, that's my thoughts on it. What do you guys think? Do you think that the Smashing Machine will age, with time and be more, not accepted, but better understood in time, like Nolan thought, or not? Do you think it's just going to kind of fizzle out and people are going to kind of forget about it? Let me know your thoughts in the comments/chat, and we're going to move on to our next topic. Hey, thank you so much for watching my video. If you like that and you want to stay up to date with more movie news, go ahead and subscribe to the channel, as we'll be keeping you up to date. And if you want to watch the long form podcast version of this, go into my channel, go to the videos, and then look for a video that is, 45 minutes to an hour and a half long, and that'll be the full podcast. Thank you so much, and God bless.